Shrimad's divine grace, founder of ISKCON, Abhay Charanadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Granthara Shrimadbhagavatam ki, their most merciful Lordship Shri Srila Kunja Bihari ki, Shri Jagannath Shri Baladev Mai Subhadra ki, Shri Anatha Ji Shri Balagopal ki, Shri Gauritai ki, Nitai Go Prem. All glories to the assembly. All glories to the assembly. All glories to the assembly. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam
Saraswati Vyasam
Tato Jayamajiraya Nasta Prayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Tam Bhagavad Sevaya
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhaktir Bhagavati Naistaki. Reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 6, Text 33. Pragayata Svaviryani Pragayata Svaviryani Tirtha Pada Priya Shrava Tirtha Pada Priya Shrava Ahuta Eva Me Sigram Ahuta Eva Me Sigram Darshanam Yati Chaitasi Darshanam Yati Chaitasi Pragayata Svaviryani Pragayata Svaviryani Pragayata Svaviryani Tirthapada Priya Shrava Tirthapada Priya Shrava Tirthapada Priya Shrava Ahuta Iva Me Sighram Ahuta Iva Me Sighram Ahuta Iva Me Sighram Darshanam Yeti Chaitasi Darshanam Yati Chaitasi Darshanam Yati Chaitasi. Pragayataha Svaviryani Tirthapada Priya Shrava Ahuta Iva Me Sighram Darshanam Yati Chaitasi. Pragayata thus singing Svaviryani own activities Tirthapada the Lord whose lotus feet are the source of all virtues or holiness.
The Lord's lotus feet are the source of all virtues and holiness.
That's Tirthapada, the name of Tirthapada.
Okay.
Priya Shrava,
Pleasing
pleasing to hear.
Ahuta,
Called for. Eva, just like. Me, to meet. Sigram, very soon. Darshanam, sight. Yati, appears. Chaitasi, on the seat of the heart. Pragayata Svaviryani Tirthapada Priya Shrava Ahuta Eva Me Sighram Darshanam Yati Chaitasi. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace by Charnavanda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, whose glories and activities are pleasing to hear, at once appears on the seat of my heart, as if called for, as soon as I begin to chant His holy activities. Please repeat. the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna,
the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna,
whose glories and activities
are
pleasing to hear,
pleasing to hear,
at once appears on the seat of my heart,
at once appears on the seat of my heart,
as if called for,
as
soon as I begin to chant his holy activities.
as soon as I began to chant his holy activities.
The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, whose glories and activities are pleasing to hear, at once appears on the seat of my heart, as if called for, as soon as I begin to chant his holy activities. Purport by his divine grace of I, Charanadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The absolute personality of Godhead is not different from his transcendental name, form, pastimes, and the sound vibrations thereof. As soon as a pure devotee engages himself in the pure devotional service of hearing, chanting, and remembering the name, fame, and activities of the Lord, at once he becomes visible to the transcendental eyes of the pure devotee by reflecting himself on the mirror of the heart by spiritual television. Therefore, a pure devotee who is related with the Lord in loving transcendental service can experience the presence of the Lord at every moment. It is a natural psychology in every individual case that a person likes to hear and enjoy his personal glories enumerated by others. That's a natural instinct. And the Lord, being also an individual personality like others, is no exception to this psychology, because psychological characteristics visible in the individual souls are but reflections of the same psychology in the absolute Lord. The only difference is that the Lord is the greatest personality of all, and the absolute in all his affairs. If, therefore, the Lord is attracted by the pure devotee's chanting of his glories, there is nothing astonishing. Since he is absolute, he can appear himself in the picture of his glorification, the two things being identical. Srila Narad chants the glorification of the Lord, not for his personal benefit, but because the glorifications are identical with the Lord. Narad Muni penetrates into the presence of the Lord by the transcendental chanting. Om Jnanatimirandasya Garanjana Shalagaya Chakshusum Ganitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Was born in the darkness of ignorance, and Srila Prabhupada has cast the torchlight of knowledge which this Bhagavatam is upon the path. I offer my respectful obeisances unto dear most Srila Prabhupada and my own spiritual master who has given me connection to the Parampara through his grace as well. These activities, as we're seeing, I was getting a realization about this morning when I was chanting. I'm finding that when I chant, meditating on Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet while I'm chanting, I get these realizations about Krishna Lila. And here, Veda Vyas is reciting these pastimes for Ganesh to write them down. So in a sense, he's sharing a particular relationship with him there, like a teacher to a disciple. While at the same time, Ganesh is Lord Shiva's son. So Veda Vyas is an expansion of Krishna. So he's also having this relationship with Ganesh through Lord Shiva. as his son. So there's a father-son relationship there too. So see, that's incorporated into that relationship of Vedavyas giving this knowledge. He's giving it to his son, actually, too, in that form. So these inside secrets, see, we wouldn't know this without having been given inside secrets by Krishna himself about who he is in the form as Vedavyas, being this literary incarnation. When I first came to the movement, I remember, however, I was being taught that Vedavyas is Shaktivesh avatar. And now I'm not certain how to. I want to know properly, because there's a difference. Because Shaktivesh avatar is an empowered jiva tattva. Nevertheless, in the position he is in, we would treat him the same as we would an incarnation of Krishna in his presence. But we should know the proper perspective. But see, this is not the only universe. This is not the only planet in the universe that Krishna appears in various forms. And so just like in other universes, there is no soul who's just reading. It takes, to become a Brahma, the soul has to be born into Varnashram Dharma 100 times minimum. Take a human birth that many times into the system of Varnashram Dharma. See, he is the regulator of all the systems of the universe. Lord Brahma says he's the firstborn, most advanced, and speaks the Vedas. Got 4 mouths to speak it out of. And so he also is a follower of the Vedas and father of all the living entities thereafter that come into the universe. So we are, respectively, in the parampara of Lord Brahma. But in our universe, Lord Brahma is Jiva, whereas in some universes, he is Krishna, an expansion of maybe some aspect of Krishna's personality, that creative aspect, when he has to take that form of Brahma, just like when he takes the form of Lord Shiva, by mixing with, not being controlled by, but by entering into and controlling the modes of material energy, then we see him from a perverted reflection. We see Krishna, the pure Krishna, from a perverted reflection. Now, philosophically, there's a deep meaning to this as well, because even when we look at Krishna, if we are coming out of the modes of ignorance, we are going to see in Krishna what is not the most elevated view of who Krishna is. You can be looking directly into Krishna and thinking he's our enemy. Duryodhana. We look right into Krishna's eyes and see him as his enemy on the battlefield. Even Dronacharya. But Dronacharya was elevated enough to know Krishna was supreme. And he was put into a different position than Duryodhana and had conquered that arrogance that Duryodhana was displaying, and the false ego as well that was prompting him to be controlled by the lust he had to see the most elevated lady of the Pandavas. So Krishna's revealing to us how significant relationship is. When we see the development of familial friendships that souls develop as a means of progressing from one form of life to the next, then we can also see in our development, in our own lives, the development stage that we go through to understand who God is, right? And, of course, introductorily, the only view we have of who God is the greatest, the Almighty, the All-Powerful, who's in control of the wind, the rain, and the elements. And so we develop that relationship of awe and reverence, which is even found in the Vaikuntha planets. But in this most fallen age, taking the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is giving the most elevated and secret teachings that was not even revealed to some of those who were with him 5,000 years ago. When he was calling the gopis out into the forest, the relatives of the gopis didn't know this was Krishna Lila going on. They just thought he was some romancer.
Okay.
Yeah. Taking wives away from other husbands. You know. So Krishna is giving us the ability to be able to see him, even though we are in the most fallen age at this time that this universe is going through. And so it reveals to us how powerful this combination of Srimati Radharani and Krishna in the same body to begin this movement, this Maha Mantra movement of Krishna that is going to be so powerful so as to affect the world in what appears to me to be even a more so powerful effect than when he was on the planet personally, as individually Radha and Krishna. Why do I say that? Because all the prophecies are saying when that golden age comes, and Bhagavatam is saying it will come, and Charitamrita, Chaitanya Charitamrita is saying it will come by the chanting of the holy names, then knowledge and love of God will cover the earth like the waters cover the seas. This is probably spoken of in the Bible. And I take this to heart because it gets a little more local. The Bible gets more local than Bhagavatam. A lot of times, Bhagavatam is talking about things that are going on throughout the universe and creative principles that took place at creative time. But this local vision of the future that this golden age is gets specific in other scriptures. And the devotees themselves, a lot of them not having read because these are for them confidential teachings that they don't give out. See, just like we are instructed not to preach the glories of the holy name to faithless, atheistic demons. We're not the only ones that have that understanding amongst us. And so all these groups that are holding certain particular truths about the future, which is only being revealed among them, to those followers among them who are following. Because even amongst these ancient forms of paths that were given by inspired by Krishna, that have been lost by ancient times. Very few are following in those paths as well. They're being overtaken by modern psychology, modern advertising, modern this, modern that. There's two tuggings at the hearts of the souls that are being born on the planet. The tugging to want to know what perfection is, and the tugging to just enjoy. Just do whatever we want, and that's what freedom is. That's what life is meant to be, meant to enjoy and have fun. And that's what people look forward to when they're retiring. They're putting money aside so that they can enjoy it afterwards and not have to worry about debts and taxes and all these things. But in effect, if people are not made aware of the fact that if our perspectives are set in such a way to believe that the enjoyments we are thinking we are deriving from our involvement with the material energy of this material world, which is all there is, in the ownership, the substances of the things in this world. It's all made of the earth. The earth is a body in and of itself as a person. If we take from it, then we owe to it. But that concept is not in society. We take from it and we own it. It is ours. That's all false ego. My building, my land, my car, my this, my that. And the only way we can conduct our consciousness in a way to be able to realize it properly is to be in that situation where everything belongs to God, and yet everyone that is doing his service has full access to it. This is what Srila Prabhupada called spiritual communism. It's not owned by the government the way, man wants to portray ideal communism where everything is available to everyone. You need something, take it and use it. But what that brought forth, without God being in the center of that kind, there is the tendency for mankind to want to overlord one another and be the ruler and the one that has access to everything, regardless of whether anybody else does or not. And that's all false ego. And as long as the society is led by those predominated by false ego, and there is no means within the society to be able to know how to overcome false ego, then people will be bound by those same bounds of the physical body that it is bound to now in this form called the human body. We're bound here because of our previous attachment to enjoy this kind of an experience we're able to have through these human forms. But we got animal forms the same way previously. It's just a little stage higher than an animal, not much higher, which is what we don't know either, because it appears as though we're the highest on the planet, which in our minds puts us in our minds at the top. Till we read Bhagavatam and see how many forms of life there are much higher than human beings. We're always thinking about our own pleasures. We're always thinking about how we can enjoy and what is mine to do today for me to have enjoyment, pleasure. But Krishna makes a system in such a way that we can find and satisfy those pleasures and get spiritual benefits simultaneously. So what glorious seed. This takes on the meaning as well of the statement by the person they called Jesus Christ when he said, and the same statement made by Krishna, Sarvadharmam Parityajya, surrender unto me. And his words were, those who will lose their life for my sake will find it. And see, when you surrender to Krishna consciousness, you're giving up your own thoughts about what your career is going to be. You're giving up your own thoughts about family life, about everything, what you consider success, the ability to accumulate masses of wealth and have a family and make everybody happy. You forsake all that. And you surrender to Krishna. Then, if Krishna puts that into your future, he will work that out for you. Then you don't become the karmic reactivist.
Okay.
We have activists, and they don't know it. The activists are going to be reactivists. You're going to be keeping to come back to respond to the reactions that they are going to get to themselves for causing the actions that they are themselves involving themselves with, which is all what karma is, which is what is created at every moment. The mind is creating karma. The acts we engage in, the desires we create to enjoy creates karma. And then, but Krishna is so merciful in this age, should not hold us account for those thoughts as long as we don't act upon those thoughts. But where is the school for restraint? When what we are restraining ourselves from is being looked at as freedom. So they are teaching souls how to become more connected to the material energy as they develop their abilities without the end result whatsoever, heading towards the eternal, which is what seva is, bhakti. And in any way, so yesterday I asked Srinath, I'm going to drop a list, maybe 20 or 30 ideas, and maybe you as devotees can come up with them, and if you do, just give me suggestions, because I can include it on this list. This list of little acts that can be done by devotees who are having full-time jobs in the world or not finding themselves capable of coming here regularly. But through the day, when they make regular visits to the store, when they go shopping and these things, they make a stop here, buy something for the temple, buy a pack of lighters, buy a pack of incense, put a bookmarker in the library, donate some bookmarkers to the library with quotes of Krishna. These kinds of things, very simple acts in the society to do that can in fact be the source of liberation for soul. A simple act by a devotee giving another soul the ability to find out something Krishna said can be in fact the turning point for that soul in their life to come to that place where they can surrender to Krishna. And then find the ability by that to then break the control of the false ego. Because in a sense, desire, the desires we create in our minds, moves us to action. So it was desire that got us here. Now we can use desire to get out. And this is what Krishna consciousness is, getting out of material energy, getting into the spiritual energy, which is simply a change of the way we think. Consciousness, Krishna, I don't know, in a sense, you could say we should be the happiest people in the world. Then in another sense, to have the full view of how lacking the state of the world is in, isn't it? I mean, I don't find days in my life where I can't say I'm not happy. I'm happy all the time. I feel so elated, in fact, to have come in contact with what I searched for so many years, to try and feel that I really know that I found God, I did that for many, I really wanted to know. And I wasn't feeling totally satisfied in all I was reading in Christianity, in Islam, in Buddhism. It was like something was lacking. But it is because this most powerful energy of Krishna that is going to move this planet into its proper place in the universe. See, what the inhabitants of the world will be doing when they surrender to Krishna is finding their proper place in life. And in the same sense, the exterior event that takes place is the earth itself regains its proper place in the universe. Human consciousness and the acts of the human being have been the cause of the earth being moved out of its place. Human acts and desires against Krishna's desire has been the result of this planet being put into the disastrous condition it is in now, which we take for normal. But we have to see through the eyes of Scripture in order to see the fallen state it is in now. When you read the city of Ayodhya, when you read the city of, you read about Vaikuntha, to speak, the conditions created by the inhabitants who are engaged in simple activities, agricultural activities, doing no more than providing for themselves food and clothes. That's all they engage in mostly for. And worshiping paraphernalia to provide that for Krishna, that's a simple life. But when you even breathe the air in the city as it's described, you are breathing life itself into your body. You can read the descriptions of what a breath of air would be like there. And no, we're not getting that here. And we're not, in all of our beautiful places and gardens that we have, it's nothing compared to what is being described in the city of Ayodhya, even. That was on the planet. But with Krishna consciousness, it can be restored. The way it's set up, if all these things were available, the economic system we have set up with dollars and cents don't work that way. Isn't it?
Right.
If everything is available to everyone, nobody has to buy anything. So capitalism is the word we're looking for. It doesn't really function so well with communistic mindset. But the paradox the soul finds itself in is trying to function within a society that seems to have within itself built in the only means of functioning is contrary to the way the soul knows its perfection. Because in this material world, the societies that have tried to function under the concept of communism have failed because of the inadequacies of the rulers who've tried to put it into place, having themselves lust, greed, ruling their lives. which makes ruination for the rest of the society. Whereas if you have Krishna in the center, who is the one who gives freedom from, by revealing the means of controlling the mind, freedom from lust, anger, and greed, then we have a controlled society that functions properly, that can actually produce, like the bees, they produce the honey. If they were all off doing their own thing, they wouldn't be producing honey, they would be eating it themselves. And there would be no honey. So it's like humankind. If they're all working for themselves, they're not producing the fruit. The earth, Mother Earth, being a person, also has desire. Krishna also has desire. But what we don't want to think that we don't have desire, but we purify it so that the desire is in line with what Krishna wants. And then, if Krishna has appointed us to be preachers to a specific group of people, then we go to that group of people, and the way we appeal to specific groups of people is they recognize us as being perfected in the line they are in. So, Krishna is the perfection of every science. But a devotee that comes to Krishna consciousness normally in his later years will have put himself into some field that he will become a little more adept at, right? And gradually then Krishna brings him to himself. But it's not that he loses all his previous abilities that he has developed before he came to know Krishna. So even though he surrenders to Krishna, doesn't mean he's lost his abilities. But now by surrendering to Krishna, Krishna in him will give him the knowledge of how those abilities can be even more perfected. See? But that comes automatically. Not by the desire. Not we don't surrender. Oh yeah, I'll surrender Krishna if you give me this. And yet that's what happens. That's the end result. If we surrender with the simplicity of wanting to please Krishna, because Krishna says to do it, then do it because of that. That's the best reason to do it. Because Krishna said to. That's why. And you don't have to justify it to anybody. Who do you have to go to besides God? Even mom and dad. They don't believe you. Well, with love, we try and do everything we can to help people understand why. Because in that persuasion as well, then they can become liberated and find that liberation. But ultimately, it is going to be Krishna. Krishna would have us follow the laws that have laid down within the society we've been born into, to follow those laws, as long as those laws don't make us go against his laws. But there are laws being made by human beings that may force them from time to time to put into question whether they can be followed or not by those who are following Krishna's teachings. Paying taxes to have babies aborted could be a question in a follower's mind and say, wow, do I want to contribute to that? Paying taxes to a cause that is to find the reproductive practices of a certain species of bird out in Africa somewhere, which money has gone to through taxes. It's crazy. What human beings find themselves capable of demanding of other human beings when they themselves would not do the same thing for themselves. They can, in other words, tell you to go to war fight for what they believe in, even though they themselves won't go to war. And wars are being fought because of the politicians who are in the positions of leadership who hold certain beliefs, political beliefs. And the young people who have the desire to beat somebody up, the desire to want to kill or learn how to defend, there are good motives as well in learning self-defense. But all these activities are based only on conditions that exist within this material atmosphere. And so the consciousness we want to develop are given to us to understand about it in that book called Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the 64 arts, the soul, the souls, plural, in Vaikuntha, are engaged in eternally. And any one of them can give us, by perfecting any one of them. Singing is one of them. Singing is one of them. Putting flower garlands together is an art. Dancing is one of those arts. All these things, they can be developed right here in this world. And if the Guru gives you that to do, you will become as perfect as you can become. This is what Christian consciousness has to offer to society. To replace society in relationship to the principles that govern society in such a way for human beings to have relationships with one another that will be beneficial for all, not based on each individual's own desire for themselves, but all of them geared toward the same end, for perfect love of God to be experienced by every form of life possible. And when we make that the goal, when humankind makes that the goal of life, what a wonderful world this would be. So that's what Krishna consciousness is. That's what all these young people jumping up and down and putting these symbols together and singing these songs is all about. Developing love of God and love for one another and experiencing the happiness of that and revealing it through the singing of God's names, how much God means to us by the way we express that in the way we sing his names. Krishna, we love you, and we want you to know that in our song, our expression of your holy names. And then automatically, we experience that reciprocation from Krishna, who is the source of all happiness, the source of all life itself, was the means. I've been looking for the last couple of years to get this instrument using an accordion keyboard that allows the player to be able to play the sound vibration created by any instrument he chooses. You could play a tuba, you could play a saxophone, you could play bagpipes, you could play an accordion, you could play a piano, you could play an organ. Anyone, just by the pushing of a few buttons. And I've been looking because these things are like $5,000, $4,000. I could buy that. But see, I know by past experience, just like computers. When they first came out, nobody could afford them, just a few. And then pretty soon, and now everybody's got one. Same thing with telephones. You know, in the beginning, you started out, 1 or 2 people had them, 10 people, 100 people, now everybody got them. So the same way, when everybody is chanting, this whole planet's going to be, it will be a different place to experience. And then automatically love will be manifest. And reciprocation, when it comes from Krishna, that reciprocation, the soul that gets it won't trade it for anything else. And And he knows as long as you stay doing what you're doing. You can know that happiness you get from Krishna now is because of the principles you've applied in Krishna consciousness, that Krishna is himself empowered to give you that experience of happiness. And as long as you just keep on that same path, it's only going to get better and better and better. Yeah, that's been my experience anyway. So I'm just only speaking by what I have experienced. And as far as I know, Krishna is equal to everybody. That in the way that if I commit a wrong, it's just as wrong as anybody else committing it. But I don't commit those wrongs, so he doesn't treat me as though I do anymore. And when I did commit wrongs, if I did it in ignorance, it's different than if I do it purposely hurt somebody. So all these levels of wrongs that there are, when quote-unquote religion presents good and evil as having the same levels, right? You're either going to heaven or you're going to hell.
Right.
Now, there's no levels in between in either one. There's no gray areas. Eternal suffering to the extreme that it can be, or eternal pleasure to the extreme that it can be, and no difference. It's what one would draw the conclusion of if they follow Christianity. And Christianity is so divided and it's become so spread across the world. Its influence is very, very powerful in the minds of the normal, everyday person in the world. It is behind this aggrandizement of the gathering of wealth, the accumulating of that for one's own pleasure. This is all being promoted by quote-unquote religion as a show of success in spirituality. Mostly, you would say, to those that are not following the teachings of their own guru, who they call by a different name than his own. Which is kind of sad.
Extremely.
Yeah.
Ooh.
See, that too, we're being given the exact names. Narad Muni, which he's been named for a long, long time.
About how long? This is about 6,000?
No.
It's longer than that.
He is born of Brahma. 189 trillion.
100, okay. 189 trillion.
Years. Give or take a few billion.
Okay.
That's how it is, though. See, we don't. But imagine, we're reading of these souls having this close a relationship that long ago. And even just if we say 5,000 years ago, that Narad Muni was having this with Krishna. Wow. Where is he now? What kind of friendship and secure relationship with Krishna does he have now, 5,000 years later? And how much he's playing on that veena now, and what melodies he's playing, which will just continue to be more and more perfect. There is no end to perfection, it would seem. And so, like you were saying about the melodies that are of a more perfect, they have a more different scale. So similarly, see, our conceptualization of perfection in this world has limitations within what is even available or possible within the realm of what we're calling a material universe. But the spiritual universe doesn't have that. And that's the kind of mindset we're being brought to. impossible to be the norm. Living in the realm of reality, to know how impossible reality is, how extraordinary reality is, how out of the norm, which should be the norm. What is reality? Seeing Mahavishnu lying on the causal ocean with Sheshanag as his couch. In our minds, when we think of the universe, that should be like the norm. Of course, all the stars are there. But see, you know what? I've been getting the realization of that setting that I just described is a stage. And the land space around it is the theater.
Oh.
You know?
Yes.
See, from that dwelling, from that land surface and the inner covering of the universe, that is how they are seeing. And so I was just reading about the mountains there are so big that they block the sun from some of those inner surfaces which never get sun. That's on the inner lining of this universe. I was just reading that that's the 5th canto. And there are planets contained in those realms that are near the mountains that are blocking the sun from those areas on the inner lining of the universe. I'm just hoping, every time I read about these, I am just hoping. See, it is so easy to mistake what they are describing as part of the earth. And if they take it like that, they won't know they won't be able to show it as a reflection. Even the inner universe as a reflection of what's going on in the divisions made on the outer covering, which are made in layers going away from Mahavishnu. So the farther they go away from Mahavishnu, who is lying in the causal ocean, then the farther they are, similarly in those heavenly realms, the farther they go away from the sun, the farther they are away from the controlling ruler of the universe, who is ruling in the sun planet, inside. And that's huge. Land surface. See, there's land surface on the interior of the sun that could be included in the Bhu Mandal, living space, that probably for the most part, most devotees don't even think of as land space. We see the sun as that which you would have to have a body of fire to live on, but not necessarily. Just like the earth is hollow, has an inner hollow gas, it's made of gases described in Bhagavatam. And it is where the Middle Earth civilizations dwell. The universe made the same way. And there's an inner sun. The universe has an inner sun. All of these planets that have life on every one of them is described are made the same way. And they are protected from the outer forces of the universe by this outer covering that is the only thing we're seeing. And because we are living on the outer covering, which Bible gives history of human beings being sent out into the outer covering. That was this dispersal. They got kicked out of the inner, where they were on the inner part of the earth. And so there are other histories of civilizations as well, not kicked out, but came out and were sent out. So this is similarly the distinction being made by a soul like Narada Muni, who comes with a purpose, and souls like us who got kicked out of Krishna's mouth to come here to enjoy individually, try and enjoy ourselves separately, rather than coming to liberate the souls who are here and get them out. It's in effect, devotees are heading in the opposite direction. Most people are. They're looking to stay here, have fun, make this a permanent residence, and it will be. And they continue to do that over and over and over and over again, not realizing it is the material energy that's got us caught up into the cycle of death at the end. And we got to get out of that. And the only people that can bring knowledge of that is the people that have it, which devotees are. Even Christians don't have it. They think heaven is the goal. And the same mentality is in heaven to enjoy. And that's why they fall down too. They fall down because it runs out. The enjoyment runs out after it's paid. What has been paid for runs out. Like getting a ticket to Disney World, it only lasts so long. With the pious activities and a very short lifespan given on the earth. Like if you take Japanese dollars and try and spend them in America, every $1 costs you thousands of theirs. So every 1 year, pious activities here are like days there. Just a couple of days, not even a day. 1 year is a day in the heavenly planets. So if you even engage in activity for a whole year, you would think is a great accomplishment. It's the equivalent of a day's work there. So what we can accomplish here that is even possible piously for gaining a reward in heaven is even limited by the short amount of time. We have 100 days, 100 heavenly days on the planet to try and feel it's of some worth to gain presence in the heavenly planets. And Krishna does give. He'll give 10,000, 30,000 years of lifespan, the equivalent of our years. 100 of theirs is the equivalent of about 37,000 of ours. 365, 36,000. So the living entity, devotees are so rare. And in Michigan, how many souls are there that need to know this, that don't? And we few. Like you press upon me the very significant importance of being able to go out and just chant these names. I feel every time you tell me that, I feel so bad that I'm not in a position to be able to go out now like I used to. But
in time, in contact.
Yeah.
In time.
Yeah, I'm taking medicine that might help that. Even so, with my schedule though, the way it is, if you're going to serve in the temple and you're going to be steady at your service, you got to, take the schedule very seriously. So we see as well the mentality that, well, I'll do my service when I want to, but it's not good for the temple to have that consciousness or that mindset. We should take what Krishna says seriously when he says Sarvadharma Parityajya, to surrender and make him the one who is most important in our life to be following. Otherwise, we'll get the end result of those who we do follow. And they'd have no promises to give us after this life. But Krishna does. It's about time for Prashadam. Any comments? Oh, it's past time. Any comments, questions, or just hunger on the mind?
No.
Just hunger on the mind. So, Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam, Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai. I looked up, it was 22, and I thought